Similar to a pendulum swinging, the current timeline that we inhabit has been infected by many events. Even the smallest action by the most insignificant person can cause major effects on our own timeline. This idea is known as the butterfly effect, that was named after the idea that the flapping of the wings of a butterfly could eventually contribute to the power of a tornado somewhere else in the world. Today, in this video, I will present to you one of the most dramatic butterfly effects that changed the course of history. How medieval spices eventually led to the two most powerful Middle Eastern groups known as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. The story first starts out in the early 15th century, when spices were just found to not only flavor our food, but also to preserve it longer. This is due to what's called the zone of inhibition being created, which breaks down the infection-causing bacteria similar to antibiotics. When this property was found out, people quickly went to use spices to save food. Due to this, everybody began to barter for spices. This caused many different countries, especially Egypt's, economies to be based off these spices. But as the increase in demand went up, the predictable happened. Due to the scarcity of the spices, they became worth more, and the economy began to dry up. This led to the age of exploration for countries to not only find new land, but also to gather new spices for their country. The age of exploration is the event in which we get the foundation of many new countries and alliances, as well as the rise of many forces to power. But no force could match the pure authority and influence that was the East India Trade Company. The East India Company was first created after the rise of England's dominance in the spice trade industry became more apparent. The company was created under a charter, or a grant of sorts, that allowed them to gather land, under the conditions that the land they owned was still under the ownership of the British Empire. The whole goal of this company was to gain more land and, more importantly, more spices. What many people may remember from their history class is that the East India Trade Company, now on referred to as the EIC for simplicity's sake, was in a constant rivalry of the French, Dutch, and Portuguese companies. As the EIC went to the sub-Indian continent, their rivals soon followed, sparking what would be a trade war on an entire subcontinent. However, this trade war would spark tension between more than just the companies. The Mughal Empire, the current main inhabitants of the Indian subcontinent, disliked the advanced Europeans meddling within their society. So, their first great idea is to wage war against four of the current most advanced civilizations. This seemed like a pretty horrible idea at the time, even with the number of people they had to outnumber them. And, surprise, this didn't work out too well. The Maratha how do I pronounce that? The Maratha... How to pronounce Maratha...
Maratha or Maratha.
Oh, cool. The Maratha Empire, one that was currently making its way down to the continent, attacked the Mughals, getting some of their territory weak for attacking. While this happened, the EIC sent communications back to Great Britain, asking for more reinforcements to help defeat the Mughal Empire. The British Empire did as they requested, as the other countries began building up their forces as well, which would later cause a basically five-sided war, but truly classified as a two-sided war known as the French and Indian War. The British also recommended the EIC start to transition into laissez-faire policies, an economic philosophy that believed the government should not be involved with the economy. Businesses and the people obviously liked this policy better, as they could have fewer restrictions on their buying and selling rights. Due to this policy, EIC increased in business, making them even more powerful. With both the powerful company and a large portion of the British Army in cahoots with each other, it was no surprise that the EIC eventually ended up winning the war. This caused an expansion across the entire sub-Indian continent, leaving only a very small portion of the territory to Portugal, while the French, Dutch, and natives were ran out or assimilated. Since the EIC was still under the ownership of the British Empire, this meant that the continent was dominated by British, who had almost absolute power of what was then called British Raj. However, it should be noted that not everybody referred to this as the British Raj, but rather as India because of its true nature of origins. However, as one might have guessed, the now citizens did not take kindly to the idea of being forced into a new society like someone shoving their add-ons in their luggage to make extra room. Feeling oppressed, well, I tried to look the people's names up, but I didn't actually seem to find a title for them at this time, so we'll just go with Indians to make this easier and simple for the video. But feeling oppressed, the Indians began to rise up in what would later be called the Sepoy Mutiny Movement in 1887. Naturally, the citizens lost to the government when attempting to create an anarchist rebellion and were quickly stifled. It's important to mention that a few years before this, in 1885, the 73 provinces would come together to give a delegate each, mainly Hindu and Muslim, and create a political party known as the Indian National Congress. Well, now that Britain has complete control over this land and not enough resources to manage it, they decide to just plunder the land to help support their main territories. This incident, that happened right after the Sepoy Mutiny, would be titled the Drain. Britain, at the time, stated that the money from the drain would go to help support expansion and industrialization, and would eventually help reimburse the Raj. Many experts argue if it would really have helped or not, but most agree that the beginning did nothing but harm. The economy of the British Raj quickly ran down the drain, as the Indians began to starve and become overworked, due to the fact that the population was now being treated as slaves to get materials. This quite obviously aggravated the Indians to the brink of another rebellion, but instead, the Indian National Congress began to step in. This rightfully struck a chord with the Indian National Congress, and I will now refer to them as the INC for simplicity's sakes. But their first move they made in response to this was helping educate the population, mainly in political affairs. This included helping citizens get involved with their community and teaching them many leadership skills. However, this is where our timeline begins to split. You see, this simple move of politics that was created by the INC created a path of unity, while simultaneously birthing chaos boiling in the depths of their society. Let's first focus on the path of unity because it's easier to understand the path of chaos from this one. By getting more citizens involved, Gandhi, a young man at the time, eventually became engrossed in politics. Leon Trotsky, a notable figure in Russian politics, caught a glimpse at Gandhi's potential and decided to write a letter. Not only that, it would be a large political move on Trotsky's end as he would be helping another bourgeoisie start a revolution against their corrupt government. This letter, created in 1939, named Open Letter to the Workers of India, would urge Gandhi to fight with peace rather than violence. It's important to note that the title also shows that Trotsky was openly rooting for the British Raj to become India again to return to its former name and glory. This philosophy would eventually be incorporated into his childhood teachings from the, sorry if I butcher this, Gujarat regional political ideals and the Jain monks. Gandhi would go on to preach his philosophy in the streets and ask people to revert back to living in villages and live a simpler life in rebellion against the British. He would also go back to his birth home, Gujarat, and get a local textile company to help him by funding his political campaigns. With all of the support and political rallying, Gandhi finally pulled his ultimate political move that would go down in history forever, the Salt Mine March in the 1930s. You see, one of the major industrial age productions from India during this time was salt, and as mentioned earlier, the Indians were the workers. Gandhi decided to form a large group of workers and walk out similar to a strike. Britain, who didn't want more media coverage over the already widely discussed event, attempted to stay as passive as possible, but this inevitably led to their demise. I need a drink of water. Sip, sip. Okay. Not to get off topic, but it is crucial to understand that World War II led to a halt on many of the British's worries about the rebellion, but not the other way around for the people of Raj. People in America at the time of World War II were divided among whether they should enter the war. Some people believed that our involvement would only bring negative effects in this world, and the most extreme believers of this formed a political group known as the Fellowship of Reconciliations, also known as the FOR. After the end of World War II, they set their sights on a new horizon: anti-imperialism. Imperialism, the process in which a country holds many different territories through either diplomacy or force, was a large faux pas in not only the FOR political group, but also all of America, due to our political beliefs over democracy and freedom. They first started by helping rebellions for independence, including that of India's current one. The FOR then helped ship Americans to help out India, giving them extra support. With the help of America and the political power of Gandhi in 1947, Clement Attlee, the then current Prime Minister of the now crumbling British Empire, declared India independent. This would have been a great time in history if it weren't for the fact that the other timeline was slowly playing out in the background. When the Indian National Congress asked for more of the citizens to become involved in politics long ago, they inevitably caused Sir Syed Ahmad, sorry for mispronouncing that, who was a large political Muslim, to say that Hindus and Muslims were entirely different communities. This, in itself, shouldn't have caused too much turmoil, but it did create a mental divide between their communities, which would further go on to create disagreements between the groups. The division, while an important political caveat, did not actually create much harm in terms of the relations of the council. That is, until they had a debate about cows. Yeah. You see, the Congress had to talk about a specific difference between cultures. The Hindus regarded the cows as a representation of God, a thing not necessarily to be worshipped, but at least treated with respect. However, on the other hand, the Muslims believed in sacrificing animals, such as sheep and, more importantly, cows, for their gods. This conflict between the two groups caused turmoil within the INC. Due to this, active Muslim participation in the INC dropped to around 9% and only decreased further. However, the true divide would not happen until 1945, when many powerful political leaders in the British Raj, soon to become independent India, met for the Simla Conference. However, the conference only solidified the disorder by encouraging the Muslims to see themselves as the opposition to the Congress. With this in mind, almost no Muslims were left in the Congress and had created their own political party known as the League of Muslims. This is where we get back to Clement Attlee's Declaration of India Independence. Right as he was about to officially release everyone, the League of Muslims declared that they did not want to live in a politically divided India. The INC agreed. Due to this, Lord Mountbatten, the then current Indian Viceroy, decided to partition India into two territories: the secular country and the Muslim country. The secular country would go on to become what we now know as India, plus some other territories, while the Muslim community went on to establish Pakistan. Now, there might have been just a small time period of peace between the two countries, if it weren't for the fact that they decided to establish a physical border between two countries. Remember guys, good fences don't always make good neighbors. You see, as they decided to create this border, people were on the wrong side of India, and mass immigration from both countries began. However, this only led to conflict at the border. Gandhi attempts to help this peace out between the two countries, but he is quickly assassinated by an extremist Muslim in 1948, which further spreads the tension between these two countries. Due to his death, his right-hand man, Nehru, I probably mispronounced that one too, steps up and lets his daughter take over the Indian National Congress, which was previously being held by Gandhi. His daughter, Indira Gandhi, finally took over the position of power for the INC. During this time, East Pakistan was having trouble conforming to the ways of the League of Muslims, which caused mass panic within the region. Many people attempted to flee the country into India, which meant the INC now had to be called to action for their next move. This led to another war with some other skirmishes between and after, which ended up with India winning for the most part. Due to their win, East Pakistan was transformed into Bangladesh in 1971, souring the relationship even further between India and Pakistan, solidifying their hatred and rivalry. As such, Indira, the current INC leader, becomes assassinated, which leads to her son becoming leader. But not for long. He was quickly pushed out of office by what was seen as a radical political group within India, and sorry for butchering this in advance, Bharatiya Janata Party, which I will now call the BJP, so I will no longer have to mispronounce the name. The BJP increased tensions within Pakistan, leading to a nuclear arms race between the two countries in the mid-70s. Although this political rivalry created tension with the Muslim League had already diminished in the late 60s, leading to other ways to exercise their political beliefs in Pakistan. The Muslim beliefs by themselves are not the true cause of the terroristic political groups. It should be known that the Islamic State's beliefs are corruptions and extreme extensions of the older Muslim beliefs. This corrupted ideology led to an increased activity within Al-Qaeda, which led to more violence, including the Balochistan conflict. The Islamic State, also known as ISIS, at the time was attempting to fight Al-Qaeda forces for dominance within the regions. However, with the United States leaving the government of Iraq in shambles after the Iraq War, it led to the perfect conditions for the growth and expansion of ISIS. Now, one of the only forces that opposed them, Al-Qaeda, could fight them on familiar turf. But due to the capture of Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda slowly diminished, leaving ISIS even more power within the Middle East. As you can see, while the power of ISIS may have not been directly caused by the independence of India, the amount of political power they currently have has been affected, and some may even argue helped, through the side effects of a revolution against the British derived from the economy of spices. Knowing that several countries were created and founded upon these events, such as India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and even more countries I didn't even get to talk about, it's an interesting concept. Overall, the ability to see the butterfly effect in action, all of the tiny events in history that led to wars, revolutions, and powers, it's very important in understanding modern politics today and from the past. Not only that, it is interesting to see how you can link the simplest of things to important events. This video, in reality, should not be taken too seriously. I made this video specifically for a history project that would make it interesting to understand India's independence from the British while learning some other cool facts along the way, and I hope everyone could enjoy the video. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.